Drones are not the end-all be-all of weapon systems.
Hmm.
In fact, they're one of the most vulnerable weapon systems besides firewalling missiles.
I'm happy that we've been able to communicate with CCP for years, and they're finally doing some changes. Are they the right changes? Have they worked out the way that we intended? No, but until you actually start making changes, you don't know what you need to do and how to approach the problem.
I'm pretty surprised how well it's been taken. Even the people that I had tagged that maybe would be annoyed by this change are saying, well, yeah, no, it's a good change.
If they added a new drifter weapon type, what do we think that would be? And maybe Drake can't talk, so we'll see. Ladies and gentlemen, the amount of changes to Pochven have been immense the past couple months, including the recent patch that just dropped. And we've got the absolute Pochven Avengers, which is what I just came up with, and I'm going to that's what I'm going to say from now on. And we are going to show you all the people right now. Let's get it done. Ladies and gentlemen, here we are with everybody. And I don't know what just happened. I just spent 5 minutes doing the production, and OBS just decided not to save it, any of it. So I'm going to edit this live while we intro you anyway, because that's how this goes, ladies and gentlemen. That's how this goes. First and foremost, we have Drake, our Pochven CSM. Drake, nice haircut, dude. Looking real fly for a white guy. I know. I am one of those things, Then we also have Opus, who is the CEO of KYBERNAUT and my alliance leader. Opus, thank you for taking the time as well. And then finally, we got Killjoy. Killjoy, I'm scrolling up to what you typed, because I literally asked Killjoy, what should I intro you as? Now I can't find the note. Killjoy is Yaga's Pochven Corp CEO and also an Init FC, and does run Poch signatures with them. Thank y'all for taking the time. Let me make this focused. Excellent. We can see everybody coming in. Thanks for taking the time, y'all. Really appreciate it. Love it.
Doing great. Just taking a little break from the new Triglavian content we're working on as a community.
You're all taking that 28 system in wormhole space.
Yes, we are.
Triglavian content though, currently.
It's Drifter Crisis content, but it's got a trig. The trigs have to come together to do some of the content. So it's at least the trig community coming together to do content.
Yes. It's very interesting that we've been planning this for a couple months now, and we've been talking about like how to do it, because when Drake, you became CSM, CCP Games was clearly watching our interview, because they changed red loot literally like a couple weeks after. They made it so the observatory flashpoint is now something that is not just giving you ISK raw into your wall, but it's giving you red loot that is counterplay, stealable, all that. That was what we were gonna talk about, but then they dropped this big patch yesterday, chat with all the Drifter event going on. You've been seeing it. Filaments. We got to start with filaments. How are the filament changes being received? Drake, you're on my screen. Why don't you talk first?
I was actually expecting, even though I spoke about it when you interviewed me before I was on CSM, I said it's something that needs to happen because filaments are so strong that it suppresses content in K-space, which is the most famous example is the Pochven Highway. You use the filaments going to Pochven, you cloak for 15 minutes, and then you just use another filament, and you're in high sec.
Yep.
There's almost no interplay with other interactions with anyone else, and it's extremely safe. It's not perfectly safe, but 99.99% of the time, you're going to be fine. And people have been quite rightly annoyed about it for a while, but there are others that use it quite a lot for their own content. So I thought it was going to be slightly polarized, but I'm pretty surprised how well it's been taken. Even the people that I had tagged that maybe would be annoyed by this change are saying, well, yeah, no, it's a good change. There's criticism on the amount of time it takes. Like some of the spool times are very, very high.
Yeah, 2 minutes, 3 minutes.
Yeah, but that's a good feedback to have. Like, it's not a knee-jerk, this is really bad, CCP's killing the game. It's, oh, this is a good change, but maybe change some of these. So it's really good feedback that I can then take to CCP.
Totally.
So if they ever look at it again at any point in time, then that's useful data.
Love that. Opus, what do you think? What do you think about the recent filament changes? Like them, hate them? Are you getting some kills?
I like them. I don't know of any kills we have directly because of filament changes yet. There may be some that I'm not aware of, but I think they're great. As someone who uses filaments a lot, both in and out of Pochven, I think some of the times can be tweaked a little bit, but overall, I think the change was necessary. One thing that was annoying for both us in trying to get in space was how fast that content gets away from us, right? They jump in, they cloak it, wait for a timer, they go somewhere and they pop one, right? At the other end of it, right? When you're hunting in nullsec or you're doing other stuff, it also allowed for a lot of a lot of evasion that way as well from the the outside coming in. So I think they're overall great. Again, maybe a little tweak to some of the smaller changes on wait times, but overall, it much needed change.
I'm gonna do that.
I totally agree, actually. Killjoy, what are you thinking? You guys getting kills on y'all's side from the stuff? Any spicy kills?
Nothing that I'm aware of yet either.
Got
Maybe Gabe has a few kills in SPLI Corp, but not us directly.
Gotcha.
And, as far as safety of the old filaments are concerned, I can remember in recent memory where a certain Keepstar, I don't quite remember which specific group, was being evacuated via Pochven filaments.
Sheesh.
And while
Really?
they felt that it was safe coming into Pochven and then leaving, and I'm sure a lot of them got out safely, us Pochven enthusiasts did have quite the feast on all of the extracting DSTs, and I think we even might have gotten a Marshal out of that.
Yo, nice. Yeah, I do agree. The changes recently, chat, we just covered all the changes in our recent patch guides. Go check that out. They've heavily nerfed filaments. We actually had a video guide. One of our most popular videos on my YouTube channel was the Pochven Express, Pochven Highway. As Drake said, video, I have to literally go remake that video. It's still possible. Way not as powerful. I said back when we made that video, it was too powerful. And as Drake was saying, absolutely come in, click a button, wait 15 minutes. I would go make a sandwich with tens of billions of ISK in my cargo, set a timer for 13 minutes, come downstairs at 15, click a button, go back to high sec. That's too powerful. That's not how the game should be played, honestly. As someone who used it, I think it was too good. So for sure. I'm happy to see that y'all are really feeling the same. The three people that are on the call right now are really feeling the same, that it is a joint effort, that it is not just, oh, some people like it, some people don't, because I do think it's too powerful for sure. I had a lot of counterpoints for this, but it sounds like we agree the filament change is good. Is there a way to make the filament change better? We mentioned spool times. I think the spool times are actually at a good spot, and I would keep them there for a couple months. I know some people don't like the 1 to 2 minutes, but I do think that needs to be around the 1 to 2 minute mark to give that counterplay, to have the combat probes come in, to let you scan stuff down. And can y'all answer a question of mine? You can't scan down somebody spooling. You'll hop on the person who's trying to gank, trying to kill. They can't go through the trace. Is that correct?
If they're tackled, they can't go through the trace when their spool is finished.
If they're tackled. Can the people tackling go through an active trace?
You mean, so if you scan someone down and warp to them and they go through the trace, can you follow them?
Yes. No, I didn't think
in the
so.
fleet.
Okay. Gosh, it has to be in the fleet. You got to be linked. That's what they were talking about. We had some confusion yesterday when we were talking about it. That makes total sense. So the counterplay really is you can still get through the filament, but you have to. But if someone comes on, bubbles you, takes you out, that's going to stop you, because once you're disrupted, you cannot take the filament, chat. That was one of the bigger new changes. So, okay, cool. That makes a lot of sense to me, I think. All right. Well, we've had a lot of other Pochven changes recently, including the Drifter event. We're very pleased to say that the Triglavians are winning. You've answered the call. We've been talking about it in our videos. The Discord, we're all in. The Triglavian Collective, brand new Discord for this Drifter event and beyond, hopefully, is in the description for you. We'll feature it there for you. Join the Trigs against the Drifter menace and push them back. I was surprised to see how high we were in that graph. I knew we were going to win because we're the best, come on. But I didn't think we were going to be 45%. Killjoy, let's go backwards this time. Killjoy, are your people doing this event nonstop? Are you guys sort of caring about it? What's the vibe over there?
So, my personal opinion is I'm not big into PvE events. I did ping out to my corporation, say, hey, if you are, if you want the Triglavians to win this event, then by all means, please join this Discord, join the event. And some of my guys are regulars in there. But as far as I'm concerned, if it's not PvP, then I'm not going to participate, unfortunately.
That makes sense. And this is one of the best parts about EVE chat, is that you don't have to engage with everything that happens. You don't have to be like, oh, it's so big that we can actually go to wherever the heck we want to do and just keep it going. So did I find it, boys? Oh no, I thought I found the corrected interview scene. I don't know what OBS did, but it broke everything I love. Wait, I'm gonna try one more thing. Ready? We're doing it live, chat. We're absolutely, look at how live we are right now. I changed one thing. We did it. We did it. Now all three of you are on the screen. That's what I wanted. We did it, chat. Okay, makes sense. Opus, I know that you're one of the managers of the new Triglavian Collective Discord, that all of the Trig people from all walks of life, rivals, enemies, people marked red to each other, are in the Discord and are coming together and doing these PvE sites. How is that going? Is there a strategy there? How are you having old enemies work together so well? You know what I'm saying? How's that going?
Well, I think that's built into the core DNA of us that, love the Trig lore. It's called proving, right? When Pochven was created, with all three of the clades fight and prove against each other, right? So it's very much in the DNA of both the lore of the Trig and us pro-Trig, pro-Pochven people to really, prove against each other, fight each other. But we have time and time again, when there's a pro-Trig cause, we come together and definitely, bond together to make it happen. So really, there was no friction whatsoever. The three managers of it is myself, Gabriel from SVLIs for Libre, and Emperor Velas from Velas. Totality Squad is the Corp he runs. Barrage is the Corp Alliance. So there's been no, it's been smooth. We're all there for one purpose, and it works really well, right? You put us back in the triangle, we'll kill we'll tear each other's throats out. But
of course,
when we're outside the Pochven doing pro-Trig things, it's no problem whatsoever.
Drake, I can't undock right now because I feel like your Python is just lying in wait, ready to get some kill marks. Now, come on now. What the heck? So, I might
I've
be
not
doing
logged in because it's patching at the moment very slowly.
Ah,
I was trying to log in before.
The patch saves me from becoming one of Drake's kill marks. Goodness gracious. So, it's awesome. Yeah, and thank you for doing that, Opus. This is one of the strengths of EVE Online, I think, is that you have people that are literally against each other. We have multiple alliances in the Trig space, all vying for control, for wealth, whatever you want to call it. And instead of all of us, like we see this big event fighting against each other, we very quickly and effectively, mind you, came together and absolutely are doing our darndest to get the best possible, call it final reward for this Drifter event. So good job to everybody involved there. And Drake, I don't know about y'all's side of the woods. Are you guys doing the Drifter event? Do you care about it? Or are you just PvPing constantly? Tell me.
I will be doing it. I've just been really busy in real life. I do want to grind out the pretty nice Drifter plug suit.
Yes.
That is finally in the client. Although there was quite a funny bug. So the Strategos Tyrannos, we've stolen the plug suit from her. So if you ever see her, show info and then look at them, and she's actually wearing a nice casual getup at the moment despite being a Drifter.
Ah, well, that's funny. So they had to change the data files or something. Maybe she's coming to HiSec, it sounds great. I love that. So I do think the plug suit is definitely the big reward. What do y'all think about the recent changes? They did a patch again today to change the Drifter event rewards from being more numerical, more like do damage to enemy, and now it's complete the site. They did raise the points, but they made it more catered, I would say totally catered, towards groups, and basically took out all chance of solo people from doing things. You're now forced into that group setting. What do y'all think about this?
It's a bug that's not a bug, but it's an issue with the event system that's been in that I had to CCP years ago during the Grand Prix tournaments for the Galente faction week, where if you wanted to get timed on a certain route, you would have to keep failing the route until it gave you the correct route you wanted. So I'm glad they finally done this. So now someone who's just a Logi will always get points, and they're not going to have to go and swap to something else,
right,
to then re-roll the active challenges. But it's great that they got this in so fast. Some people from the Pro Edencom side, an Arataka Research Consortium, they were complaining about this the day that it went live. So it's been exactly 2 days, and it's been addressed. So that's really
those
good.
Edencom guys complain anyway, right? What the heck?
Well, they have to. They don't have good ships. They don't have a good community. It's got to be hype with something.
Imagine having lightning and still sucking. What the heck is crazy? It's so funny. Opus, do you like these new changes? Are you for the focus on group play and less solo play with the Race for the Hive?
I like him. Yes. I think there's each side has its own merits, right? But if you're going to be able to win this content, right, you have to be able to come together as a pro faction force, right? So, I think this more aligns to the actual end goal of having a particular faction win one of the drifter hives. So I'm for it. I also think this change is necessary because it does give you that kind of end date, right? You go do sites, you do so many, you're done, and you're not having to just grind on just doing damage for hours and hours and hours.
Yes.
So it kind of cuts down on the personal time, right? To doing this stuff, you can get in, get out, and we know Eve is always a time sink. So anything we get to do that makes that compress a little more is a good thing in my opinion.
I totally agree. And Killjoy, I know y'all aren't doing the actual PvE event sites. Are you noticing any shifts in PvP since most of the people, at least half of the people, let's say, just for the sake of argument, are not in the triangle anymore? They're like out doing other things. How do y'all adapt when people are doing these PvE sites? Do you go gank people on the PvE sites, or are you still just rolling around the triangle protecting all the borders?
Nah. Since the last patch, or I should say the patch before, that where all these changes came into place, we have fallen into more of a small gang role into the triangle, and then even then, in the last couple of weeks, we've just stopped coming all together, unfortunately.
Straight up.
So as far as the drifter sites are concerned, I'm not personally. My guys are going, they're helping out the trig cause, but I'm not running fleets over there to try and gank anybody.
That makes sense. Not really worth
Also,
it when there's
even,
cruisers. Go ahead. Yeah.
Even if I wanted to, it's not like I can easily distinguish between who's running which faction, so I don't want to accidentally gank one of my fellow trig brothers.
That's a really good point. That is a potential improvement maybe we could ping CCP games with. Maybe there's a way to you're similar to flagging for faction war. Maybe there's a way to put a little icon next to our names in future events to show I'm for Trig, I'm for Caldari, I'm for Amar, whatever. Who are the people that declared themselves for the Evermark thing? Who are they?
I will say I won't even need to comment to that CCP because I know that one dev who is involved with the event will be watching this when he gets back from wherever he is at the moment.
Delicious.
So he will hear that. And he'll be like, "Oh, that's a really good idea."
That's a really good feedback, Killjoy. Yeah.
Can I comment on that a little more as an organizer?
Please. Yeah.
All right. So that is the hardest part, right? Now, currently in the current, stage are we in this content? We're not really fighting each other as much, right? But Killjoy does bring up a point, right? I don't know who to let into the Discord half the time, right? We actually have some blockades based on showing points, right? To get to certain levels within the Discord for organization. But if we were able to, look at have an ESI pool, or just look in game to see, what they chose, right? And maybe a status, it would help us even self-organize better if it comes to a point we need, us versus them, right? It's always nice to have counter gameplay, but we can't really do that for just what Killjoy said. We don't know who to shoot.
That makes sense. And this is the first time in recent memory that an event like this has happened. So I do think that CCP Games has shown a propensity for improving, especially with the Okami mining changes. We will talk about that. But this is a good point, Killjoy, actually. You don't know. Why would you go gank somebody doing these event sites, right, when they might be actually helping you long term? Because, chat, this is a serious thing. The people that win, the top 5...
I don't want to kill the trigs.
I didn't want to kill the trigs because the top 5 get access to the drifter wormholes. And I don't know what unfettered means. Drake, just shut your mouth. I know you've heard things. We don't know what that is yet. Drake, don't look at him right now, chat. Just cover your eye. We'll get there. But I'm assuming it's a great thing. And so far, the trigs are winning. So keep fighting for us. Really great feedback, y'all, on having some kind of marker next to their name. I mean, I can tell you that I don't want it to be something I have to inspect every single person, right? But maybe in game, next to their name, there's a little trig icon versus a state protectorate icon. There's already something in there that says the Corp and says the militia. There's militia : above this sex status. Maybe it could be militia, sex status, corporation, and then race for the hive : whatever. Something like that in the future. Obviously, that's not going to happen for this event. But great feedback on how these events can get forward. So awesome.
I was actually kind of excited when the whole Tabitzer thing kicked off. We had that big brawl. I think maybe local tipped over 1,000, and I was like, oh yeah, cool. Then Emperor hit me up. Like, yeah, I'll be there. Especially if you need some PvP assistance, I would be happy to even, lend the assistance of the initiative Pochven Sig to further the Pochven goals and the Triglavian goals. But then, the actual event came out and it's a bunch of site running, and then I lost interest. So.
That makes sense. It's not going to be for everybody. It's not something that you necessarily need to do. Totally makes sense. Okay. So I did want to talk about the red loot and how that's affected Pochven and how that's affected the various things that we all have been doing. Because before, chat, if you're unaware, OBS sites, when did this get changed, Drake? In January?
No, which one? The introduction of red loot was when Revenant came out.
When Revenant came out was when it came out, but when did the OBS start dropping red loot and not ISK? Was that Jan this year?
No, that was Revenant. So it dropped 40%. Yeah, it dropped 40% red loot as of Revenant.
Okay.
So 6% ISK, 40% red loot. And then in the January 16th patch, we upped the payout by 10% because it was previously nerfed by 15%.
Right.
I can get into why we upped it a little bit, but the
Sure.
crux of it is the main thing was my people who have seen my analysis of Pochven's issues over the years before I was CSM. My plan that I'd reiterated quite a lot was we need to cut the payout by 15% and distribute that to other sites. And that was on the basis that it was a low dev time thing. And I was assuming that nothing else, like content-wise, changed within Pochven to convince CCP that it's easy to do, so they don't have to invest anything into it. And then right before I got on the CSM, I then realized, because I helped work on it a little bit, and then I got a lot more work on it on the CSM, was we got all 4 factions back. The site was completely rebuilt from the ground up.
Right.
So it was far more investment into the region than I expected to get. Because it was changed, we got the different factions. Some of these factions are a lot more dangerous than the other ones. And the most common one, which is Kaldari, has a lot of ECM, which has slowed down the site. So that 15% was a bit too much. So in the January 16th, we upped it by 10%, and also to make it a bit less of a burden on like hot seat fleets, where nullsec sigs would be running all the time, and then people would hop in and out.
Oh, for
where
sure.
sharing the red loot is a bit of a pain. We reduced the red loot to 30%. So it's now 990 mil worth of red loot.
Gotcha.
Massive pain.
What did you say, Killjoy?
I said it's a massive pain.
It's a massive pain. Yeah. Do you not like the change going from ISK to red loot?
Not at all. All it did for us that run fleets at the size of the 30 plus level, 40, 50, 60 players, and maybe not even all at the same time, and over the course of a day, a couple fleets through the day in different time zones. That all that change did for me was have a massive spreadsheet tracking who was in what site at what time and how much they get in relative terms to everybody else.
Gotcha. But it is EVE Online, so shouldn't there be more spreadsheets? You know what I'm saying? No, I totally hear you. There's not going to be a perfect system. I do think that a site that just deposited ISK directly into your wallet every time, I don't know. I think the red loot change is a good move towards that, but I hear you that it ends up being, let's call it, administratively tough. I think that's fair to say.
It's administratively tough on the person that's providing the content. It's not tough on anybody else.
Right.
Yeah, the FC takes on the work and responsibility.
Yes.
Yeah, and more specifically, to go on to that point, is multi-boxes don't care about it at all. Like, multi-boxes are the least impacted, and they're the thorn in the side of... have always been a thorn in the side of Pochven, because it's... the sites, even though they've gotten harder, are still easily optimized and easily multi-boxable,
Right.
which is an issue EVE Online has always had. There are ways that I can think of, and people who have given feedback. So both Opus and Killjoy are members of the Roundtable, which is like a little semi-private focus group, just so CSP can get some more condensed feedback.
Sure.
And there've been a lot of ideas tied around to make it less of an impact on the FC themselves, or just the specific group that have actual different humans in it,
Right.
and actually have some sort of effect on the multi-boxes instead. So that has been taken, even though maybe it doesn't look like CCP are doing anything with it. It is all being gathered and discussed, but it's just stuff we can't publicly talk about.
Of course.
Annoyingly, I wish I could, but I just can't.
No, talk about it when it's ready. This stuff takes time. One of the best parts about EVE is that the changes can be slow over time, and we can get it done. What about the keys to the OBS? When I first saw those, I was kind of surprised. You know,
I'm gonna let not Opus, Killjoy start with this, because I know he has some strong opinions on this one.
Strong opinions fly. Go.
So all of the issues that I just said about the red loot, CCP was like, hey, that was such a great idea. Let's double down on this whole more administrative work on the FC thing. So the keys, you need 15 to get in for your fleet. Okay, but what if you're over 15? All right, 16, 17. Are you really going to want to bring those extra 2, 3 in? You're now losing profit. Okay.
Sure.
Well, now you've got 60. Who do you bring in and who do you not bring in? And then all of a sudden, okay, maybe there's a fleet already inside. This is a common tactic that we did all the time. It's a staple in Pochven, pushing the site, taking the loot and the ISK from potential competitors. How are we going to do that now with our 60-man fleet that could push a site that can only put 15 into the site now?
Right.
So it's
tough.
It's added effort for no reason.
I hear you. I can be the devil's advocate and say that this probably helps against the N+1 if people are trying to go and, like, someone's on the site, they're in room 2. Hey, if you guys want to go take them out, you've descanned it, you see how many paladins, whatever Chronos they have now, you know, Vargers, whatever. You're going to bring a couple more, you're going to bring some other dictors, etc. Now you have to pay for those extra things. So it kind of makes you go, well, we don't want to bring 60, we want to bring 20 when they have 15. So I hear you that it's definitely administratively tough. I think the spirit of it is to try to combat that N+1 and to really take this smaller gangs, go please. And make
against the N+1 argument that's being made is, sure, our 60-man fleet is not going to push into the site and take the ISK. You got in there, congratulations, you got the site, it's yours. What are you going to do leaving the site? My fleet didn't just disappear.
Right.
Okay. How are you going to get to the next site? How are you even going to leave the system?
Well, there's the counterplay, right? I think that's the point. And I don't have a perfect solution for this, but to be the devil's advocate, I think that's the point.
I would also push back on that. So it hasn't really turned out as planned, well, as envisioned. The N+1 isn't really being stopped by it, kind of. So while some groups don't like it, the, let's say, entrenched groups in Pochven who have so much money because they've just been crabbing for so long.
Multiboxers.
Forever.
Yeah, they have so much money that they generally just don't give a shit. They'll just spend the money because it's more valuable to them to blob the ever-living hell out of the group that's come in to try and take the sites, so that they don't come back, so they can keep taking the sites for themselves, in effect. That's sort of what's happening. So it's definitely something that's like a fundamental flaw in the assumptions of what would work, what would happen.
Yeah.
That's a problem I have identified, and we're not sticking our heads in the sand. We are talking about it a lot.
Good.
With CCP.
Yeah, so the keys have locked out the ability to quote unquote gank or overwhelm people in the site itself. Yes, that the site aspect of overwhelming numbers is fixed. The
Got it.
rest of the region expecting this to fix the actual fleet size and whatnot is exactly the same as it was, except there's fewer groups now doing it because of how tedious and a pain in the ass it is.
I
So,
hear
can I-
that. Go ahead, Opus.
All right, so I'm going to talk for a little bit. I want to give a different perspective from this. I want to talk to the audience and talk about Pochven itself. And, yes, the changes that CCP's trying to make is to get back to fundamentally what Pochven was originally declared to be, a small gang paradise. All these things that CCP has changed, and I am thankfully are open to change, and they are finally changing things, right? We've been in a broken space for quite a long time with no changes. So I'm happy that we've been able to communicate with CCP for years, and they're finally doing some changes. Are they the right changes? Have they worked out the way that we intended? No, but until you actually start making changes, you don't know what you need to do and how to approach the problem, right? So I think that Killjoy is correct. It doesn't fix the 60 N plus 1 man fleet sorting around Pochven. That still needs to be fixed, right? This is supposed to be a small gang paradise. There should be no reason why 60 plus people need to come to the 27 region piece of space for content. That 60 plus man fleets belong in low sec and null sec, right? They already had their playground. Small gangers and small alliances like ours need spaces to play, away from umbrellas of supers and other capitals, away from the low sec dominated mercenary groups and bully groups with tons of dreads and blops everywhere, right? The space is designed for us, right? So I think as long as we're pushing towards some type of change is happening and they're being looked at and analyzed each time, I'm happy where we're at. I'm not happy exactly where we're at right now, right? Red loot, keys. I agree with a lot of these statements, right? They're not ideal. They make a lot of overhead, even for a size of alliance like ours. I have 200 people in the alliance, right? It's still a lot of overhead. We're dealing with it because we believe this is going to get us, to a better Pochven, right? But we do recognize we have the same problems they do, so it's still problems.
That makes
And
sense.
It's also Pochven is. I think people don't understand how fucked Pochven was when it was released, and we're still dealing with those issues. There are so many things that are just completely abandoned. The LP store is a great one. The sites that are catered to smaller fleets, like the Torpid, the drones, the Edencom ones, the payout is such a joke that the only point you would ever use them is for standings, which is what people do, and nothing else. Everything has revolved around OBS because OBS was the only one thing that was fixed, and it's so lucrative that it's like I attribute it kind of like Dutch disease, where you've got one pillar of wealth and everything is around that. So when that pillar gets disrupted, everything around it just dies. And we saw that in December 2022 when they did a bug fix on the respawn time of OBS, which all that happened was the people who are entrenched in there can just control the site and when it spawns, and everything else just disappears because you can't mess with it. And the region just died. The activity just dropped like a stone overnight. There were some people that benefited from it. I know in it, Svarog Liberties guys, they did really well during that time, but they were an exception to the rule. Everything else just disappeared.
Gotcha.
So we need to. All these other pillars need to be fixed and built back up before Pochven is truly healthy. I really do want to get away from OBS as the thing we should be focusing on. And it does still need changes. It definitely needs tweaks. A good example is like the Caldari site is the most common, and the Phoenix inside the Dread is just a joke. We've buffed it 5 times, and it's still the worst one in terms of damage. And when we do KYBERNAUT, Davey Deals does some really good graphs, which I present to CCP every month with the MER. And in there is performance data on how the Dreadnoughts are doing. and this tiny like pixel thin segment of the pie chart is the Phoenix, and everything else is the 3 actual dreads that are doing work.
Sheesh.
So it does need changes, but we really need to work on all the other stuff as well. So
Yeah.
it's definitely something that is going to take some time. CCP doesn't have infinite resource to throw at this. I wish I could ask for it and get it, but that's not gonna happen.
Yeah.
I'm working with what I've got, but also at the same time, what I've got is way more than I imagined I would have coming into the CSM.
Right.
But that's just a bit of a reality check. Like I really want to deliver and make Pochven like the paradise for small and mid gang, and keep some like large gang incentives in there. Like you still got the grandfather dreads and citadels, and there maybe could be some bigger sites like down the line, but that's just me spitballing. It's just going to take a lot of time to get there, so
I agree.
bear with us.
I think Pochven is one of those things that, as a region, it's better than it was, even with the recent changes being more administratively annoying. Region's better than it used to be, for sure. We can actually make money there. But the problem becomes, and we saw some chatter on this in the chat, is how do you, and this is not really an answerable question, I think, because it does take testing. One of the things I like that CCP Games have been doing recently is trying new things and actually testing stuff instead of just like leaving it how it is, doing small tweaks. These are actually some pretty big tweaks coming in, and then seeing where the dust settles and then go from there. I'm hoping that CCP Games continues with the thinking they're doing, where they seem to be doing more carrots, less stick. There's been a lot of buffs and changes to various systems, like we see the quality of life changes in the recent patch, versus a lot of like nerfs to things. You know, some of the nerfs are needed. We'll see. I'm hoping that we can get some love with that to Pochven. And selfishly, if we when we win the Drifter event thing, I'm hoping that will help give some credence to helping Pochven become more of a well fleshed out area. Because I agree, right? If you don't understand Pochven, chat, if you're new to EVE and you never really play this kind of stuff, Pochven is an endgame area that small gangs was the goal, and is basically not the reality. There are, because you can't use Sinos, you can use dreads, but that's an event for another time, right, Drake? You know, so I got my Rourke wall in Pochven, by the way, now, so I'm ready to mine, and I'm ready to explode. We're gonna have a good time. That's another stream. When you are in Pochven, you're not gonna see Sino ships, you're not gonna see dreads, because you can't do them there, typically. And instead of the big gangs you see coming in, and all the talk around force projection too, I think is a really good maybe door that you can talk to the Pochven devs, Drake, is especially now with the Filament changes. Pochven is now like not a get out of jail free card only. Now it's another whole area of space that does need work. It really does, because there's not a lot to do comparatively. There's still plenty to do if you live there. There's mining, PI. My PI is killing it. We've talked about I make 1.6 billion ISK in 4 days on one character. I got it mapped out, and Pochven do be doing it. You know, would you like a Marauder every 4 days? That's what I do. So there's definitely more stuff that we can do. I would like more sites. I've never thought about that, Drake. That the Torpid sites, they don't give me any money. Why?
Yeah, and they also give you the same amount of money. So a Torpid that can spawn drifters that have Doomsdays gives you the same amount of money as killing like 10 of those tiny drones that die to a cormorant on a day one character. Like,
yeah, I do want to say
it's just out the gate of Pochven was just I just can't understand. I've gone through with CCP like how bad it was.
Yeah,
I had a
we've talked.
So it was bad. I definitely drilled down to CCP at the CSM summit. Like there are things Pochven did very well. But there's also things Pochven did so badly that if you repeat it again, like I think a load of people will just quit
straight up leave,
because it was so poorly delivered. Like you had this great event, the live event that lasted a year and a half, was it? The Invasions, Chapter 1, Chapter 2, Chapter 3.
Like yeah.
And then the big crescendo was this new area of space that everyone was excited about, and you could do nothing. You couldn't take gates. Everything in there was bugged. The only content you could do was Diamond Rat Gurustas in certain places just because an FOB happened to be in there when it changed over to Pochven. Like it really was like one of the worst things CCP have done for an expansion. That isn't monetization related, let's say.
Yeah.
If we remember
Do we
the
think,
old
and
incarnate
this is the big
days.
question, do we think they've learned enough to not repeat it? Because it looks like we're about to get another area of space. Now, I know it's another wormhole, right? The drifter wormholes. But we're about to get essentially another area of space. Do we think they've learned enough to not have a similar Pochven debacle? It looks like the drifter... Let's talk about the new drifter wormholes. Because the information we've seen publicly available, and Drake, on it, maybe you can't talk about this, probably can't, because you are in circles I am not allowed to talk about. You know what I'm saying? So if we are doing these new drifter wormholes, it sounds like this is going to be a very endgame area, extremely high risk with the publicly available information that we've seen. Do we think that this is going to be another Pochven? Or is it going to be a harder Pochven? That's my two questions for you. What do we all think?
I don't think it's gonna be another Pochven, personally. I think it's gonna be a means to an end for different kinds of content, lore push wise. Maybe a different piece of maybe a Thera 2.0 situation, maybe another Turner type situation, Zarzak, but nothing like Pochven.
It's definitely going to be much closer to Thera than Pochven.
Got it. So instead of, because I know that the new drifter wormholes, it sounds like they're one-ofs. And again, we don't know exactly how they're going to spawn and all this, but Pochven is more of a connected area that is on top or below, depending on who you're talking to, of K-Space. And Thera and wormholes are more one-of instances you can go to. That when I was reading the documents, it kind of read like the Abyss, almost, where you find these really high-end sites or really high-end wormholes that are very difficult, and the wormhole collapses at some point. Where, I mean, if we've seen similar mobs that we've seen just roaming around, we're talking cruisers with doomsday weapons, you're going to need very big, very coordinated fleets to mess with this. Do we think that this is something that's going to be an alternative to Abyss, to Pochven? Is this going to be just like something we've never seen before? What are y'all's thoughts on the new potential drifter wormholes? And Drake, maybe don't weigh in, you know.
No habla inglés.
No habla inglés. I'm telling Drake not to talk because he's a CSM. He's in internal talks, and I don't. We don't want to say something here, you know. So, Killjoy, what do you think about this? We will start with you. What do you think about the new drifter planets?
So, I mean, again, starting with me not being the best idea, because like I said, I'm not doing anything towards actually achieving these goals. But I will say that if the formula of Pochven is replicated, where it is a PvEVP situation, where I can essentially market it as you're getting paid to kill other people, then that would be amazing, and we would absolutely participate in that.
For sure.
But I don't think we're going down that route.
Yeah. I don't think that we have to all participate in it either. The description of it was it's going to be a very niche in-game, end-game area full of very difficult PvE sites. And if it's anything like the stuff we've seen, there's going to be hacking that's guarded by, you know, various things. There's going to be lucrative stuff. They were talking about capital wrecks that even salvage into big bad stuff. I don't think you have to engage with it. That's a very big message, by the way. EVE Online is so big for a lot of the new players that are coming in that just because content comes out doesn't mean you have to do it. When we saw one of the most common comments on a lot of my Equinox videos was, oh, another thing for Null, another thing for Null Bears. What about my area of space? What the updates they were doing were so big. I'm actually glad it was just Null that was taken down by those things. You know, there was a lot of other things going on. We could talk about that later. But I'm glad they're not changing the whole game and adding these new areas. What I do hope is that when Triglavians win access to these drifter wormholes, I hope, because we will, because y'all are going to help us fight for Triglav, right? Except for Killjoy. Don't worry about it. You know, it's fine. So, when we win, I hope that our access to the drifter wormholes open up some dev resources for our area of space, as you've been saying, Drake. So, Opus, what do you think about the new drifter wormhole planet stuff? What do you think?
You know, I think CCP's been, you know, I've been asking CCP for years again to take us on a journey like they used to do before 2010, right? When they got kind of shy because of some of the decisions they made. But, you know, I play a video game to be entertained and to be part of the story. And I love EVE because we create our own stories, right? Our individual stories make up this awesome game that has never been replicated. But at the same time, you know, there's a lot of us, and I think, you know, even us as player creator content creators with their own organizations want to have to be a part of the larger story too, right? Just like the Triglavian invasion, right? There was a mass Capsuleer story being told, same, but under the umbrella of lore being guided and told by CCP, right? And so if you look at what they've done in the past, with Aurora and the faction warfare stuff, Zarzak, you're seeing this back to where the players are still pivotal in making things happen and pushing the storyline, but the story is there, right? Becoming part of it. So I think that these wormholes are going to open up to more PvE style content, right? Bigger bosses, maybe I don't want to call them complexes or encounters,
Sure.
but something on that nature, that's pushing some type of lore that hopefully gives us new ships, new types of innovative gameplay, mechanics. Does it end with more PvP? I think you got to look at it like this. In order to get our new toys, we got to be able to do the lore path to get there, right? So if these new wormholes are a PvE oriented thing, which leads to more technology getting to the hands of Capsuleers for bigger, better, more complex fights, I'm all for it.
Yes.
And I'm gonna push it. But I'd love to see mass battles, right? I think something we haven't really quite seen in Eve yet is one big bad boss that we have to come together as a group to really, really kill, right? Like some
That's true.
monstrosity we have to beat on for hours and hours and days, right? I think
Right.
that's where I hope we get to with some of this eventually. If not this, then something else. But for me, I want to see larger PvE events again. And there's always PvP around this stuff, right? You can't undock into Eve and not expect PvP. So just like there'll be groups trying to accomplish something for one group, there should be, and I want. That's why I want more tagging, right? To know who's pro Trig, who's pro Mar, all the other factions, so we
Yes.
can have that counter gameplay that Killjoy gets to come in and do, and I get to do, right? I'm a PvP organization at heart too, right? So again, I hope that's a lot to hope for in an event. No pressure, CCP, but I do think that looking at where CCP has been going, what they've been doing, I have these expectations because I see this is kind of what they're painting.
Yeah.
So impress me.
I love that.
I mean, I'm all for it.
I totally agree. And you've seen they have the capacity for this. I know this is a different game and we're not going to talk about Frontier, but in the recent eFrontier videos that they've been putting out, they made this massive, massive ship that was the size of a space station. They called it the Feral Moon Eater. And it actually is a raid boss, like in every sense, what you were just describing, Opus, in eFrontier. So maybe we'll see something similar in EVE Online. And I know that Dreads and other capital ships, Titans kind of fulfill that niche, but still, right? I like what you're saying. I do think that what you just said might be the Deathless. That might be what they're kind of pushing for, that he might be the big bad boss that we all go after, but I just don't see the level of drama around it. And maybe that's also because of how EVE is, where EVE is very much a game that the story is written by the players. We've said this forever, that EVE is about the players. And while CCP games will give breadcrumbs, it's closer to Dark Souls lore than anything else, I think, because they'll let you make the story yourself, and the players are the ones actually doing it. And you guys that have played Dark Souls, and you're all real gamers, so I know you have, okay. Where the item is, how the item is obtained, and the environment the item is in is actually part of the lore, and it lets you infer stuff, right? So it's very similar with how EVE is in some cases, where the players are the ones that are dictating what's going on, and not necessarily being spelled out, this is what it means. The players are the ones that are doing it. So I would love to see some kind of raid boss. You said new ships. Drake, just, cover your face if you can't say anything, you know what I'm saying? But if we get new drifter-focused ships, that would be sick. I think that'd be super cool. I do think that's coming. I have no inside information to, figure that this would happen. Drake does not DM me things. I don't ask him because I want him to succeed, you know what I'm saying? This is something I think might happen. I would, if I was a betting man, and I might be, I would put some money on it because it's just the reality that we got some rather awesome Edencom ships. They're technically Edencom. I don't know why they put it in the Edencom thing. I thought we were getting another Upwell button on the ship tree, but the Deluge and the Torrent and all those are Edencom ships. Fine, sure, whatever. Those are great. I fly them all the time. The Cenotaph and the Tholos, great additions. Very expensive, but still really awesome. Damage over time effects. I'd love to see some kind of new thing that the Drifters add to the game, but at the same time, I could just see the Drifters being, hey, we're a different flavor of the same ship because they've added a new system with damage over time effects with the Cenotaph and the Tholos. I'd like to see kind of what you were talking about, Opus, where the new Drifter wormholes are not just there and it's like a new PvE site that you can go do. I'd like them to be similar to what we did with the mercenary dens, where these unique items let you get these new things. Because isn't the Cenotaph and the Tholos, aren't those gotten by doing the mercenary dens? Isn't that correct? Am I just wrong? Okay, I got you. I want to say something and I'm incorrect with this crowd of knowledgeable people, right? So I liked that they made a new system that got us brand new ships because it forced you to go do the new system, right? And I'm hoping something similar happens with these new Drifter wormholes. So what do we think if they added a new Drifter weapon type? What do we think that would be? And maybe Drake can't talk, so we'll see. You know, what do we think? Anybody's answer.
Well, I mean, the obvious.
Doomsday.
Yeah, the Doomsday. That's
I
what
think that breaks the game, though.
Right now.
Well, I was thinking more of their shields, right? Like something a health bar you have to get through.
An overshield.
Yeah.
I mean,
that when you crack it, it like unlocks people. You know, like theirs does. That'd be interesting.
that would also be overpowered, just like a Doomsday on a subcap.
Well, they took away
Isn't
my
that the
ECM
point of
burst.
Drifters,
They gotta
though?
give me something. Yeah, come on.
Are
Is that
Drifters,
why they
are Drifters not supposed to be overpowered? Is that not their entire point? Because they're
Okay,
like,
but are you going to give
Drift-
the players the Drifter ship overpowered?
Can you imagine? Like,
see.
you got to have a whole fleet of Cenotaphs. So Tholos is just to counter the overshields of
Yeah.
player of like, like you think the monitor's bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Monitor's bad? What happened with the monitor? Drake, what happened? Maybe we can't
fuck the
talk.
monitor.
Yeah, Drake. What'd
Exactly.
you
The
do with the
monitor-
monitor,
Drake.
Drake?
But, funny story.
Tell
So when the sites got redone in Pochven, which was great, we introduced the concept that is internally known, thanks to me, as the no-no zone. If you go too far from the center of the site, if you want to kite and be, a bitch and run away like a coward, there are these 6 word posts that are very, very strong, and they don't like you running away, so they will shoot you. So it was designed so you couldn't go away. And the
Yep.
first fucking day, Killjoy sent me a DM, and he's like 60k out of where he should be. I'm like, how'd you get out there? And he's just in a monitor getting repped. So I'm just like, I fucking hate the monitor so much.
Monitor do be a ship, chat. That's so
You
funny.
fucking punish me instead of just making them do more damage to the monitor and letting me just keep use the ship. You're like, fuck the monitor.
Just nerf it. It's fine. The monitor is the FC ship, for those that don't know. It has you can only fit like a target painter. So yeah.
If you want, I will suggest to CCP that the word post will automatically insta-pop it if it's a monitor, and then you can have the monitor back inside.
Okay.
No. You want the monitor
whoa.
inside. You want risk and reward. The monitor has no risk, so I'm adding
We're
the
gonna
only
follow
risk.
the bads outside into the wear posts.
It's great. I love it. Fantastic. No, I definitely would like to see some more modules in the game. Maybe we add a Tech 2 monitor so that Drake can be very happy and love everything that's happening. So yeah. It's incredible.
Does it have like a second target painter so it can whore on
Yes. It's got another mid slot so that we can just point at everything and just get it done.
We need a turret slot so that you can put the civilian gun on them.
That's true. There it is, right?
I was gonna say just give it the Cenotaph ability, right?
Yes.
Yeah, more seriously, like the reason I don't like the monitor, it's a great tool for FCs. I don't like it because of the target painter. That's not because, it's half because it's in a meme way. It's not because if the FCs don't get on Z kill, then the only people using them will be actual true FCs who are actually doing their job for a reason and not just farming points. But aside from that, the reason I don't like the target painter is drone assist allows the monitor to be an invincible drone bunny in effect. It's obviously not as powerful as a Hugin, which is one of the best drone bunnies because it has an amazing target painter and it has really long range webs. But you can kill a Hugin. It's
Can you define drone bunny for the new people?
Okay, so drone bunny, up to 50 drones of other people's ships. If they're in fleet with you, they can assign drones to you, and those drones will engage what you engage. So a drone bunny is someone who is essentially spec to buffing those drones with application or just something to direct all the drones at play. So
Right.
you lock a target, you shoot it with something, either a gun or a target painter, and then all the drones will go over there and kill it.
Yep.
It's the idea.
Massive
Very
ball
effective.
drones.
Yeah,
The
extremely.
laser is a different
Yeah.
god.
Yeah, it's extremely strong. It's also one of the reasons why we saw in this patch yesterday that the EOS has had its sentry drone bonus split out,
Yes.
and then the sentry drone bonus is reduced because of that niche. It hooks up everything to a single button, and that's up to 10 EOS or 25 Gilas or 25 rattlesnakes.
Yo.
All hooked up to a single button. It's just so strong. That's why I'm personally not a fan of how drone assist and drone bunnying works. I don't like the fact that it's free for everyone. I think you should need to fit something to be able to use it, or to make it maybe have some very bare bones version, and to make it actually useful. You have to
No,
invest
that would
into
be
shit.
cool. You got to
If
fit
I
like a
could,
module.
Just for a second.
Go ahead.
Just since I am a drone enthusiast, drone bunny enthusiast,
Same.
Disgusting.
before the monitor, which I
How
will
dare.
say, I never actually drone bunny from a monitor. I've never done that. But before the monitor, my most common ship as the FC was the Hugin, so I'm very familiar with that.
I've never done that on my main. Yeah, on my main, right? It's just, I'm just not doing it. It's not a thing. I like what you were saying about how maybe it's a module that you have to have like a sensor array of some kind that the drones can rally to that's actually in a module slot. So you have to take a module slot, and maybe you have to have a small siege timer, like 30 seconds. You can tell the drones poke that. I don't know. Something that makes, because I think that's one of the biggest proponent of multiboxing, is that you can throw drones onto one ship, and then on one ship you can essentially have all the damage happen through one F click. You just click engage, and there it is. I like that kind of play, because then you can still allow drone bunnying to happen when we have a fleet, but not necessarily help the multiboxers out, because I do think the multiboxer should be less in power for how, as a multiboxer, I think we should have less power. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
The whole thing around this drone bunny concept is it's already got counterplay. I mean, yes, it is technically, you could call a legal form of input broadcasting, but it's got massive counterplay. Drones are not the end-all, be-all of weapon systems. In fact, they're one of the most vulnerable weapon systems besides firewalling missiles.
That's
There's
true.
multiple ways that you can deal with drones. And you only have a limited number of them on top of that. Once your drone bay is out, and to a lesser extent, some people even fill up and will take the time to swap out their cargo bay. Once all of that's gone, you're in a useless ship. What are you going to do? Ram the enemy?
I agree with that if you are only using non-sentry drones, because then you can play as smart bombs, or like just moving away from them so they take time to catch up.
Right.
It's not really the same with sentries. It can be in certain situations, but generally no. Like the sentry areas where it's an issue, you have the drone bunny, which is normally a Hugin. It could be a Nesta or something else. I've seen them, but Hugin's like the most effective. The Hugin gets remote seabode, so it insta locks and it can lock to any range. It has a target painter for amazing application on sentry drones, who at that range have decent application anyway. And then all of them fire at the exact same time, so it's amazing DPS from 10 other drone ships, or 25 if it's rattlesnakes. Huge alpha, huge DPS, all hooked up to a single button. So yes, drones do have counterplay, but sentry drones specifically are where this becomes unhealthy. If sentry drones didn't exist, I probably wouldn't have an issue with drone bunnying at all, because of the points that Killjoy said, because I agree with them. Like sentry drones is the unhealthy part, as far as I'm concerned.
That's fair.
So I will say, even sentry drones have a counterplay, right? You can get range on there, like you can do range suppression, things like that, dampening, and that does render the Hugin or whatever the drone, but if you know which one it is, right? That's the issue too. But yeah, it does.
It only
does
works to a
counterplay.
certain extent, because they have so many remote SIBOs that they can change the script. It can work, I'm not saying it won't work, but you have to have a very niche thing that is very uncommon,
Right.
just for that
I mean,
one
it does.
person.
Right.
I have been
Yeah.
CBO'd out before, but
The-
to the point where I can't lock as the drone gun.
The other thing as well, which kind of aids the sentry drone specifically, is booshing. So backpack booshes to keep moving your ships back if ships approach you takes all the sentry drones with it, because there's no limit on how many
Oh,
drones
yo.
you can take with you in a boosh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That specifically for other drones, again, that's fine. For sentry drones, if they didn't get booshed or not all of them got booshed, then you can actually start killing the sentry drones, or you get to a range where their tracking isn't good enough because their tracking generally isn't that good up close.
So
Like-
I will say to that as well that you can boosh a big ass sentry ball, but not many people do that. The only people that do that are 99% of the time the multi-boxers. If you're in a big fleet like mine, where we
Mhm.
use sentries, it's spread all over the place, man.
Sure.
Yeah, that's fair.
Hmm.
That's a fair point. Yeah, like, and most of my dealing with them is with multi-boxes, so that's why I've got that opinion. So it's a decent point.
That's fair. Multiboxing is one of those things that is such a hot topic. It's on all of my videos. Whenever I make a video that's about like, yeah, just get your alt and come on down. Like, I think the Porpoise is the first ship that I really started multiboxing with, and it's the ship that changed my life. Because having that as an alt, not just a boost, but having like the access to the fleet hangar, warps, it aligns pretty fast, sub 4 with it with a double eye stab. It was one of the main ships that I would use to just get around, to just have a good time and just transport stuff even, you know? And having the ability to haul while I'm mining, or haul or do anything other, you know, salvage while I'm doing missions, salvage while I'm doing whatever, go pick up PI. I think that multiboxing, though, the problem might not be in the game. And I don't know if there's a right way to do it, because we were actually talking about this earlier today when we were doing a down the rabbit hole reaction to react to the entire down the rabbit hole thing. We're almost done. It's actually taken us 5 months of streams to like get through everything. We have so it's a prime second monitor content, y'all. Okay, excellent stuff. We were talking about how CCP Games as a company has to try to marry what will make them money with will actually provide a good game experience. I do think that multiboxing at the polls is too much. So the big question is, should CCP just start putting a cap on Omegas? Because you don't want to multi-box on alphas. I think that's fine. You don't want you don't want to get spool up 30 free to play accounts and everybody's just doing whatever. I think that makes sense. Should CCP Games put a cap on multi-boxing where like you can only have, I don't know, 10 accounts logged in at one time? Should that be a thing?
I don't think that solves the problem. I mean, we
Why
have
not?
bad evasion for RMTers and all that going on right now with VPNs. They'll just
Yeah,
But-
it's
True.
not enforceable in my opinion. Like,
That's true.
you would yeah. There's so many ways around it. You could have different PCs in the same place. You could do VMs. You could do what's it called, like GeForce Now. There's other versions of GeForce Now which you can play Eve on. So
Right.
Yep.
How do you enforce that in a way that isn't going to be seen as unfair by the community?
I agree. I posed the question not as a solution, but as a question, because
Yeah.
those questions are kind of how we start approaching the answer. I agree that once you open up the door, you're allowed to multi-box. Now it's great. I will spool up whatever the hell I want. And what about the people that have spent a bunch of money that have 100+ accounts that are all Omega because they're just doing something I'm not doing? Some people play Eve very differently than you and I, ladies and gentlemen, okay? I do agree that it's not trackable. It's not something that's solvable, and it will probably cause more vitriol in the community than it will fix. I agree with this point, though. Multi-boxing is fine. There's nothing morally wrong with multi-boxing. I multi-box chat, and it's, you know, I got a couple accounts, we just keep it going. Where I think the issue becomes are, and Opus, you kind of hit on this, the RM tiers. We've talked about this a lot when we do the down the rabbit hole reactions, that RMTing actually kills the game. Actually. Because now you have to have CCP Games have to hire people to investigate this, to go through the logs. You end up spending dev resources at the polls to try to stop people from doing something that harms the game anyway. Because when you have RM tiers, when anybody under the sound of my voice, even if you buy a billion-isk off of some third-party site, whatever the heck, you're helping a system that actually hacks into players' accounts and fishes people and messes with people in very negative ways, takes away their accounts, and hurts the company because they have to hire people. It hurts the entire ecosystem. So I agree. It's not a good idea to limit the amount of boxes you can have running because it's not enforceable and it ultimately doesn't actually find the problem. It was just a good question. So, you know, I thought it was a good question. Is there some way that we could combat multi-boxing? I mean, maybe CCP Games will watch this. What are y'all ideas? How could they do it?
Make content that isn't so scalable and has to have multiple things happen at the same time. So someone who is just the multi-boxer that you generally know in Eve will struggle to do all those things at the same time. The scalability is like the core of the issue. If you can make 50 mil an hour doing X, then you can make 500 mil an hour doing X 10 times on 10 accounts. And that kind of applies everywhere.
Yeah.
So that is the core of the issue. And I don't know how you would do that in a way that wouldn't eventually be solvable, because people will eventually always solve everything.
Right. Of course.
Like what's the like the well-known adage, like players will optimize the fun out of the game.
Sure.
Is kind of like that. Like people will find a way to do it, and as soon as one person's found it and shares it, then everyone knows it.
Of course.
So unless you're constantly churning out new, fresh, unique content that isn't the same there isn't the same system to complete the site, as it were, then eventually it's just going to get solved and it's back to square one in effect.
I agree. It's a tough thing because multi-boxing it definitely makes the company money. It lets people have multiple ships. I also think that certain ships are made in mind to assume you're going to multi-box. I can't have a capital ship and not have an alt that's a Sino. I can't.
Yeah.
It's just going to die. You know, so certain things are made in that way. We can argue CCP's greed one way or the other, but a company is a company and they have to do something, Chad, for God's sake. So it's just one of those things. We're talking about it a lot on a Pochven Roundtable, y'all, because multi-boxing is unfortunately a reality, let's say, of Pochven, where we have to deal with it every day, where it's something that no matter what happens, we deal with multi-boxers, and the good and the bad, right? So good discussions around multi-boxing. I think that's pretty good. So we've got we've been doing this for about an hour now, almost an hour. Let's do a little bit more, and then I think that's enough. I know Eve players are built different, and they watch longer videos. God bless y'all. But let's not overload them, okay? We talked about multi-boxing. We talked about Pochven. We talked about OBS. We talked about the drifter sites, new drifter ships. I would love to have more trig ships. Do we think that, and even, I'm not talking bigger ships. Give me a trig hauler. Okay, aren't there trig haulers in the game? We've seen them zipping around on the NPCs have them. How do we get trig haulers? Opus, do we have to lock down the trig haulers on the NPCs and force them out of the ship and then take it from them? Let me ask you this. Instead of going down the line of like, should we have trig haulers, which the answer is yes. My actual question for you is, I think one of the main things missing from the faction ships is specific diversification comparatively to each faction. So like the Trigs have a unique system, the spool ups. The Deathless have a unique thing. They have this dot effect. The Sisters of Eve are these like cloaky explorer ships. But the other ships are basically just, whatever the roll bonuses are there. If we have new drifter ships, the question is, should they be so unique and drifter flavored? Or is that like adding too much complexity to the game? Should we have more systems is the question I'm asking. What do y'all think?
There's no such thing as too much complexity.
Yeah, exactly.
Man.
Yeah.
Complexity is the spice of life. Like I would, a good example, this is just me throwing stuff out, and this is nothing to do with what I know through the CSM. This is just one of my ideas. Like I love artillery ships. Artillery ships, the concept of it is something that goes very fast. It hits incredibly hard, and if you miss, people will laugh at you for 5 hours while you reload. I want something that like personifies that, something that will fire and will take ages. You might as well go. It's probably faster to build a new ship than to reload the gun. I want something like that.
Like a one-shot thing.
Yeah,
big
but
old
it's got like the tracking is so small that you have to be like
So
perfect to get that
you
perfect kill.
you want Halo Mac guns where you have to point your shit.
There you
Yeah.
go.
Yes.
Oh, that would be sick. And I will say something that's actually I'm not sure if I can say. Never mind. I'm
yeah.
not saying that. Never mind.
Let's
I got you.
be careful. Don't get yourself in
Whoa.
trouble. Don't get yourself in
Well,
trouble.
it's something to do with a different game, so
Is
don't
it-
worry. It's
oh.
nothing to do with CSM.
And we kept
There you go.
Yes. No, that all sounds fantastic. See, all these new ideas are super fun. I'm still waiting for whatever the heck, and again, Drake, maybe cover your head. I'm still waiting for the Trig ship we saw in the Invasion trailer. The massive, it's like a gate that is a Trig ship that we can like move a gate around, you know?
You mean the Zordash?
Whatever that is. Is that what it's called? Is it a
Is
Zord
this-
Dash?
Yeah.
The Zordash is the sexiest
Yeah.
ship in the game. It is also the largest ship in the game. If you
Yeah.
ignore the, it's almost as wide as a Keepstar.
Is it called that because you DoorDash other people's ships here? Is that why? It's a
No, but if I ever get one, if CCP ever release it, CCP please do it. Even though they,
do it.
I keep asking them and they keep ignoring me. How about that?
That's fair. And it's
Yeah,
one
I
of
mean,
those things. Go ahead. Yeah.
it is also like 3 times the size of a Titan. So
Yes.
Only
how
but-
on earth would you balance? Yeah, they're huge.
Easy.
More rea-
They
more
are
realistically,
gigantic.
Depending on who you ask, there is in existence a Trig Marauder somewhere.
I want a Trig Marauder. Give me that.
It
You mean
already
Give me
on
exists.
that.
Serenity? You mean the fucking broken state of Serenity on Eve China?
I'm just
Oh
saying.
yeah. I do remember seeing that. One of the Eve partner guys. China has a different server chat, and they actually have different ships. There's technically a Trig Marauder over in China. Craziness. Absolutely amazing. Yeah, I'm all for this kind of stuff where there's more options. I agree that my first question, like complexity is better. I do think that each faction needs more complexity at the poles. I'd like more tier 3 stuff. Tier 3 cruisers are some of the most fun ships in the game, in my opinion. Unless you have a Python, sheesh. So they are some of the best ones you can get into. I think you could do a lot with them. I'd like to see more ships like them. I'd like a tier 3 battleship, personally. I'd like something that is
Tier
like...
3 frigate.
Tier 3 frigate would be good. It's tough, I think, because frigates have so much variety already, right? We have covert ops, we got attack frigates, we got electronic attack. There's already so many. Battleships, it's like, do you have the Navy? Do you have the Marauder? That's basically it. You know?
The one thing I want is like one of my most favorite ships in the game since I've started the game, because I started Galente, is the Hyperion.
Yes.
There's no technical version
yes.
of that. God, I would love that. I had no idea what form it would take.
Yes.
For like a Rodin Shipyard's red Hyperion. I would
Oh.
Yes.
I would
Give me
love-
another Marauder. Fine. I'll settle for another Marauder that's the other hull for the factions, right? Because we have the Megathron, that's the Kronos. The Hyperion becomes the, what's another planet from, you know, Gods of Rome. I don't know, whatever. That sounds good to me. Well, y'all, this is fantastic. We definitely have a lot of awesome stuff said today. Pochven Roundtable, ladies and gentlemen. The changes are here. Good discussion. Why don't we go around? We started with you, Drake, so why don't we start with Killjoy this time at the end. Killjoy, what is your like ending thoughts? Anything you want to say? Something improvements you want? Any call outs to CCP Games? If you want to hype up your Discord, whatever you want to say. Killjoy, take it away with your final word, my friend. Go ahead.
The only thing I have to say is that I think CCP should throw more updates in fewer intervals and see what sticks, see what the players like. If they're not going to open up the test server again and get actual like live feedback, then they need to do quicker updates and get feedback faster from the live player base. That's all. As we don't go to Pochven, we're saying what we think about it. And we're all waiting for a reason and an excuse to go back to Pochven, so it needs to come faster.
Love that so much. Opus, you're up. Same deal. Go ahead.
Oh, well, first off, if you're a pro Trig Capsuleer, please join the Trig Loving Collective Discord and come fight for the Trigs in this current event, wherever it may lead. Second off, if you're looking for a pro Pochven group, KYBERNAUT's Clade is always recruiting. And to end this, you know, there are people in Pochven right now. There are great small gang roams happening. There's some multi-boxers and some other stuff we don't like, but it's a great piece of space, right? I'll never not rep the space. There are people. There's filaments. It's easy to get in. Come fight. We will fight you. There's other people to fight. The more people in this space having small gang and doing things, the more data CCP can use to help, make more iterations in the space. So, thank you.
Truly. And hey, if you join KYBERNAUTs, I'm in there too. Come on down. Links in the description. Okay. Drake, take it away. Last word.
A lot of this comes down to like a lot of both the things people like and people don't, what things that people don't like. Communicate it to CCP, but don't just bite their head off. Have useful, concise, detailed criticism of why you don't like it or you do like it, and alternatives to it. Because CCP does genuinely read, even though it doesn't seem like it. They read the forums, they read Reddit, they're watching this stream right now, actually. And CCP is now finally on a communication spree. We saw this with all the Instagram videos. Some people think it's quite cringe. I genuinely don't care as long as they are communicating more.
Agree.
They have some baby steps to do so they can have it like videos on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and then also a forum post where everyone can go for a centralized location, because having to go through these videos over and over for different things is a bit of a pain. But it is a massive step in the right direction. There's been times in the past where CCP just flat out don't communicate. So please encourage them to communicate more and give them, and then they will respect your communication more. I think that will pay dividends over the years that EVE Online's going to continue to exist. And I'll say, thank you so much for the people who voted for me in CSM that got me in. It has genuinely been like a dream come true. It's been far more productive than I could have ever imagined. I loved work. The CSM Summit was great. Speaking to people in person. I spoke with Hilmar himself to like 2 a.m. into the morning twice, and then I spoke with him for like 5 hours straight during a dinner. At the end of it, and he's also genuinely, he's not a typical CEO. He does know a lot about EVE, and he still genuinely does care about it, even though he's doing other products as well. So yeah, I would say communicate with the CSM if you think there's changes you want to put in, and they will forward it, even if it's not me. There are 11 other great CSM members who I've loved working with as well. And if anyone says that the CSM doesn't do anything, just slap them, because the amount of work that gets put in the background is like, it is, everyone is putting the effort in. So yeah.
Let the vocal minority keep complaining while we keep actually trying to improve the game, because ultimately that's all they're going to keep doing no matter what happens, is just keep complaining. So y'all, thank you so much for taking the time. Chat, can we get some 07s for Drake, Opus, and Killjoy? It was great to have all three of you. We'll do this again very, very soon. This was fantastic, and to talk all things Pochven. If you're in a null block and you want to talk stuff, let's get an interview going with you too. Low sec, I don't want to just feature Pochven. I want to feature all the things. Thank you, Pochven crew, for doing this. Thank you very much. I'm going to talk to chat, and then we'll unmute in just a moment, y'all. Thank you. Just a sec. Ladies and gentlemen, that's great. Well done. I'm going to go talk to them for just a moment, just thank them privately, and then we're going to come back to stream. We'll be right back. We're going to do a couple more things, then we'll end stream. Thank y'all for being here. We'll get some good stuff coming. I appreciate you watching on all the streams, chat. We'll see you in just a moment. We'll be right back. Literal minutes until we come back. We'll be right back with some more EVE right after this, y'all. Let's see ya in just a moment. Okay.